But people might be listening to this podcast and like, these guys have just employed someone to help them with their sales, and now they're going out and spending more money on sales software and stuff like that. Why? What's the point? It's essentially that. It's to basically create the environment for success, both for Josh but for 1225, so we can grow as quickly as possible, because we have got some ambitious targets, fully achievable for sure, but it's weighing up all of that time, that efficiency. Do you want...
If we're panicking about those algorithm updates, or we're thinking about working towards those algorithm updates, I think what that's actually doing is that's prioritizing short-term thinking. And something that we spoke about in the podcast a lot, and something that we try and instill in all of our clients, is that optimization and forward thinking on the long term, right? And when we say long term, we're talking way beyond a year. Like, where do you want to be in 2 years, 3 years, 5 years? And
so like, even if it's going out for a client lunch, which I'm all on board to do, I mean, I do like a good lunch. So if it's that, and one of your competitors aren't doing that, how does that make your client feel? Do they want to work with you again? Do you have a good connection with them? If that's yes and yes, the retention of you working with again is going to skyrocket. So welcome to Building, the podcast that follows our journey of setting up and scaling a growth marketing agency, 1225. This is episode number 19, recorded on the 23rd of August, 2023. I'm Josh. This is my first week here at 1225. I'm the new business growth manager, and I'm delighted, absolutely delighted to be joined by Harry and Brendan. Welcome, guys.
hey, absolutely smash it. Look at that. First take.
Absolutely brilliant.
First taken. Brendan's been doing this for 18 weeks, and he normally has a couple of takes first to absolutely smash that for the first go.
Well done. So, yes, to all our regular listeners and to any new listeners, today's a very special episode. They all tend to be special episodes, but we're joined for the first time by Josh, who is our new business growth manager, and it's a huge milestone in our journey. Josh, you're our first employee, our first colleague. How's your first week been?
Yeah, I've been really enjoying it. First of all, I'll say thank you to both of you. You've both made me feel really, really at home and really welcome. So thank you both. Yeah, I mean, the future will be bright, it'll be exciting, we'll do good things, but yeah, really enjoying it. It's only my third day, so definitely in its infancy, but yeah, really excited for the future.
And how are you finding the HubSpot videos?
Yeah, enjoying it. But yeah, I mean, they are quite long, but yeah, it's all about learning and growth. So yeah, I'm all in that camp, so all good.
So Josh, tell us a bit more about yourself.
Yeah, sure. So I'll take it back to uni. So I've got a bit of a sporting background. So I studied sports management at Bournemouth Uni, which I really enjoyed. Tailored a lot of my learning to horse racing and football, which I've also worked in since. Had SEO jobs as well, and other sales related jobs. So, you know, this is a good opportunity for me to sort of get my teeth into something and really learn from two industry experts.
Very nice of you. We'll come back to kind of what you'll be doing for 1225, but I just want to pick up on, like, obviously we talk a lot on this podcast and other times. Harry is a Liverpool fan and I follow Man United for my sins. Which football team do you support?
I mean, the word Liverpool was banned in my vocab, so yeah, I'm a Man United fan. Thick and what's the saying? Through thick and thin. There we go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hate the Scousers. Don't even like talking to them. Can't even understand what they're saying. So, you know. But yeah, Man United fan. We probably won't do very well this season, but you know, in Ten Hag we trust.
Very good. I'm just glad I've got extra numbers to get on the back of Harry whenever Liverpool lose. So in terms of what you're doing for 1225 then, so it's a bit of a hybrid role in terms of you've obviously come in, you're going to be leading our kind of sales efforts, both inbound and outbound, mainly focusing on the outbound front with outreach. And today's episode will go through kind of some of the conversations we've already had this week around the sales tool. And the other half is just kind of bringing you up to speed with SEO and getting you to help with SEO delivery, because we feel like it's going to be beneficial to you in your sales efforts to fully understand all of the fundamentals of SEO, but also 1225's approach to organic search and bringing in all of the kind of skill areas of SEO under one umbrella. So I think that's going to be really useful. What areas are you kind of looking forward to delving into in the first couple of months?
I mean, off the bat, I would say learning the sort of fundamentals of SEO again, with the sort of focus in organic search. Then I would say, obviously, using my knowledge and expertise, if I have any, which I hope I do, just sort of really hone in on the fact that as a business, we're going to go forward and focus on the customer, which some other agencies don't do, as we all know. But that's our strategy. Obviously, my job is to implement a strategy to clients, what works, what might not work. But again, it goes back to that sort of umbrella of being honest with them, but really listening to them and building that relationship with them over a long term, because obviously SEO is a long burner, a slow burner, but ultimately it's about being patient, and in the end, hopefully working with us will benefit them in the long run.
Perfect. And we sit here with Harry, who's probably one of the most determined people I know. Loves writing down goals and kind of achieving goals that he sets himself. Are you in the same kind of mindset when it comes to goals? Do you have any kind of ambitions for the first month settling in at 1225?
I would say I set some goals. I would say in a month, I would like to kind of be able to almost carry the sort of sales aspect of the business on my back, be comfortable with it, know what works, what doesn't work, who we're trying to target, who we're not trying to target, but also feel comfortable in that jacket, so to speak.
Very good. And building this podcast that you now appear on, it's meant to be a transparent and an honest kind of assessment of our journey to growing and scaling 1225. So just wanted to ask you, like, what are your thoughts and opinions, and you can be honest, about our hiring process? What did you like about it, and what were there any areas that we could work on as well?
Honestly, cards on the table, it was really enjoyable. I mean, it was seamless. I felt like during the process, I sort of know where I stood. I knew what you wanted, what you didn't want. And it was a pleasure. When I met you, you kind of gather that feeling of, in anything in life, whether it's going to a cafe you like, oh, I don't like this cafe, I won't go again. Whether it's going to university, going to a sports club. So that same feeling when I met you both after our first chat on Zoom, that filled me with a good feeling, and I thought, yeah, and I can work with these people, and hopefully you thought the same. Well, you did, because you hired me. So
yeah,
basically, it was really good. So thank you to both of you for sure.
No, and again, impressive start. I mean, I'm not sure I'd probably bottle the chance to appear on a podcast on my third day in the job. So well done. And once again, you smashed that intro. So I better be careful. My job might be on the line here with the podcast.
No, you keep it. You're better than me. Keep it.
Fair. Okay. So Harry, have you got any questions for Josh, or shall we move on to the pod?
No other questions, really. I think just to call something out, Brennan, and sorry, Josh, I want to talk about you as if you're not on this recording at the minute, but how weird is it having a third person who works here? It's
immensely weird. Like, you can already tell it's like, oh, actually, there's someone else to think about. So someone's like, if they need time, you can immediately see like the agility that we've had before Josh was here. That was great, 2 people, but now it's kind of working out. We're getting back into that agency frame of mind where there's multiple people asking questions, likewise with clients and stakeholders and stuff like that. So, and it's also, for me personally, been an enjoyable experience, because I do enjoy that kind of, the leadership side of things, mentoring and telling and teaching people what they don't already know. So, Josh, again, if you've got any feedback throughout the next few weeks about my leadership styles or the way that I teach things, let me know.
Yeah, no, absolutely, I will do. Don't worry.
Good. Harry, how about you?
Yeah, I was going to say, and the other thing, like I agree with everything that you said, but I think what is I don't really know a better way of saying it. It sounds quite cheesy, but like really cool. It was like, Josh, when you were speaking, you'd be like, yeah, I think we can achieve this, or we're going to do this. And like, it's such a weird thing to like, it sounds weird when it's just been two of us for like 3-4 months now. But at the same time, like it just gives like an extra motivation. And I am like super confident now. And we'll come on to this with some like in the status updates and in the building section of this podcast, like the conversations we're now having, like you can definitely start to think beyond just that like next week and things like that and go, okay, this is what it's going to look like in a month, in 2 months, in 6 months, in a year, or whatever it may be. And yeah, like I just, we've been recording for 10 minutes, a couple of failed attempts with Brennan's internet, but like I just want to keep going now. Like I'm excited.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a big milestone as well, because when you've got another person working with you, we're a 3-person team now. When it's 1 or 2 people, it's like, oh, you know, is there any more accountability and stuff like that? With 3 people, we're a proper team, and we're just that much bigger now. We can do that much more work as well, and hopefully that's the start of like accelerated growth journey as well.
Yeah, and it's almost September as well, so we need to start thinking about the Christmas party.
Oh, absolutely, can be one of Josh's.
Yeah, we'll go horse racing or golf. I mean, we spoke about it in the office yesterday. I need someone to teach me golf. You guys are into golf, so if I don't turn up very good, it is all on your head. But yeah, we could do something in that neck of the woods.
Yeah, that sounds good. That sounds up my street. So perfect. Right, on to the status update then. Busy week as ever with 1225. I'll start with a couple of the bits that I've been kind of working on in the past few days. Yesterday, in fact, I spent the day with one of our clients, Ashbury Healthcare. I went to their office in Hemel Hempstead to do work, but also just to be around the team, collaborate with the marketing team, with Claire, my main point of contact, and also have discussions with the CEO, the CFO, and the operations directors, keeping them up to speed with our strategy, getting their buy-in, but also talking about wider kind of business elements as well, kind of what are their pain points, what opportunities have they seen, what would they like to get moving on, all of that to help integrate me faster into learning about the business and areas that we can alleviate through our organic search work as well. So that's something with any kind of person that comes in to do delivery at 1225, I will be badgering everyone to go and spend once every couple of months or so, spend a day in the office, because yeah, exceptional day. And I think it actually adds so much value to the client as well, to the wider team at the client's workplace. Just to see me there, it's faces and faces, and I think it's something that you'll probably talk about a bit more later on as well, Harry. Also, a lot of work has been discussed on kind of internal processes with sales. We'll come on to that in a later section of the podcast. Delivery is ramping up. So, Harry, I know you've been pulling your hair out at times with some bits of delivery, but just give us an update on what bits you've been working on.
Yeah, sure. So obviously we are trying to run a pretty even split at the moment when it comes to client delivery, but I would definitely say you're probably sat more on the side of the fence of client delivery than I am at the minute, just given how like the client split has happened, which has meant that I've had a bit of extra time, is probably the way to describe it, to be working on a client account of ours. And it's a very interesting situation is probably how to describe it, whereby we've worked with them previously a number of years ago, probably like 3-4 years ago. It's kind of come full circle and we're now working with them again. And they're facing some challenges from an international targeting perspective. So I think they have, top of my head, maybe somewhere between, let's call it 20 and 30 international sites, all sitting on the main domain, so .com, and then a subdirectory, right? So .com/US, .com/New Zealand, for example. And pretty quickly after we started working with them, we thought the play was going to be pretty much out and out content generation. And we do think the longer term play is going to be that. But what we noticed was, and sorry, like for anybody who's not too interested in SEO, this is going to get a bit boring for a couple of minutes. What we noticed is that every country site, so like the .com US, .com New Zealand, was showing in every country, right? The ideal setup, if you think about Nike or Adidas or whatever it may be, is if you Google Nike in the UK, you get the UK site. If you're in the US and you Google Nike, you get the US site. And the reason that happens is through a thing called hreflang, which is like a bit of code that you can either put on the site, you can put it in what's called a HTTP header, or you can put it in a sitemap. And that looks to be implemented. Now, there were some issues with it that Brennan, you and I worked with our development partners to resolve pretty quickly. But that was about 14, 15 days ago, and we're still seeing the same issues. So I spent the last 2 days trying to further debug that. I've actually had some help from some close industry friends of ours just to try and debug it some more. And hopefully we found 1 or 2 additional pieces that will get us all the way over the edge and getting this issue fixed. But I went from like the highs of like being in the office with you, Brennan, 3 weeks ago, saying, that's it, I found the problem, we're going to get this done, 5-minute fix, we're going to look like heroes. To 15 days later, issue still exists. I'm not entirely sure on the solution to the problem. I have some ideas. I think it's going to be one of the 3 things, but really experiencing the peaks and troughs of client delivery at the minute.
Yeah, I was just about to say, welcome to SEO. Like our best laid plans, but usually don't come off straight away, and it's through that hard work and that investigation that we get the results. So welcome back into the fold of client delivery. Myself, currently working across 3 clients. We've got a brand new client that signed last week, so it's kind of the setup there, the initial quick wins that I know you don't like me saying, but quick wins. Looking at that, and then with Ashbury, we're launching a number of new pages across the site, so they'll be migrated across tomorrow. Just a couple more changes there, and then for my other client as well, in a similar sort of place, but it's all around keyword research for a topic cluster. So we've got a bi-weekly call tomorrow, shared with them what I've found so far, so we can discuss, collaborate, and decide the 12 articles that are going to be part of the topic cluster as well. So it's on track, keeping on track at the moment as well. Again, I've had a bit of a break from full-on SEO delivery like this for a good while. So to get back into it, it's a decent challenge, and I'm enjoying it. So long may that continue. Any other status updates from you, Harry?
I think the only other thing really, and we're going to get onto this, and I think you've said it a few times in this section, about we're going to talk more about this in the later sections of the podcast, but we spent a lot of time looking at our tech stack. And we said this in the podcast before, that one of our missions in the early days is to really control the things that are within our control, and to be, sounds a bit egotistical, but I think it's achievable, one of the best run startup agencies in the country. Given obviously our experience and what we spent the time doing, we should be able to nail that and have those foundations for scaling up quite quickly and quite rapidly in a short period of time. So we've been looking at our tech stack, which is one of the enablers to that. So at the minute, we're using things like HubSpot and Vidyard, and those tools are great, and we've always used them. Same with Asana and Harvest, which we've spoken about on a previous podcast, but we're using those. But the question now comes to okay, well, what's going to take us to the next level, whether that be in client delivery. So last week on the podcast, we spoke about SEO tools, and we're now up and running with Ahrefs, and we'll give that a go for a month, and then we'll kind of compare the two in terms of SEMrush and Ahrefs and see where we land. And now we're looking and turning our focus to sales tools. So we will get onto that in a little bit. In fact, that may even be the next section. But Brendan, I'll let you introduce that before we get into it. And we can talk a bit more from there.
Perfect. Just wanted to ask you, Josh, as well, quickly. Obviously, you've been here for 2.5 days now. You're working through your induction plan. So what are the main areas you've been working on in the first couple of days?
Again, just underpinning SEO learning is obviously a fundamental. You've got to know what you're talking about, got to know what you're selling. Slight changes that have happened since I was last in the industry, which was going on for a year now, obviously with AI changing the landscape. How does that potentially change customer approach? So that's been a big sort of focus of mine. Another thing that, again, those customer facing sort of strategies, how is that going to implement in what I'm going to try and enforce going forward? So again, just underpinning all the learning, but and really enjoying it.
Perfect. Okay, well, that's the status update. Now we're on to the building section of building. And like you said, Harry, sales tools. We've probably spent a lot of time this week. I think because Josh is now here and because his role is all to do with sales, it's brought the conversation to the fore. We're focusing on sales. What tools are out there that we can potentially use? What tools do we think is going to set us up for the greatest amount of success and the biggest growth? Or do we do it manually, take the time cost element, but do it manually, save potentially money on these tools, on, it could even be lead generation agencies and the like. So, Harry, over to you and kind of the thoughts on what we've been doing.
So you hit the nail on the head nicely there, which is we're essentially weighing up options on the efficiency versus success equation. So what is going to help us close the business that we need to close within year one as quickly and as efficiently as possible? And the way that we see it, and we've spoken about this as a free, is we have three routes of going. Route one is to continue doing what we're doing at the minute, which is a very manual approach to outbound sales, with the understanding of for the first 1 to 9 months, our sales is probably going to be predominantly outbound until our brand category affiliation grows. And then we'll maybe get a more healthy split of inbound versus outbound, closed business or source business. So that's option one, is to just keep going down the manual front. Option two is to outsource some of this, whereby Josh, you look at leading a lead generation agency, so almost working in partnership with them, but they are very much doing a lot of the outreach in an approach that I would probably describe as more of a volume play than a targeted play, right? They're just casting a net over an ICP list and then hoping to get 1 or 2 bites and then bring them into the fold, where one of us three would then continue sales conversations. Or option 3, which I think at the moment is probably my preferred route, and I think Brennan, having a quick catch up with you is potentially your preferred route as well, is to just level up our tech stack to help us understand where potential clients within our ICP are in terms of their intent, to allow us to be talking to more of the right people from within our ICPs at the right time. So we are working on that, as you said, with a great deal of focus at the minute. So literally just before this call, we had a call with ZoomInfo, which was a second stage call to go through a bit more of a platform introduction for yourself, Josh, and Brendan. And then on Friday, we have a conversation with a lead generation agency. And then probably by the end of the day on Friday, we are technically playing golf, but towards the end of that day, we'll like to get some kind of next steps agreed. So I think I'll open the floor back up to you guys, really, which is I've had 2 calls with ZoomInfo. You have had 1. Josh, do you want to go first on this? What's your take on the ZoomInfo route as one of the potential options?
Yeah, I think if you're going to sort of add anything into the way we do things in process, it's got to integrate well and it's got to be seamless, right? Which ZoomInfo seemed like it would do, especially with HubSpot, for example. So that's a big tick. And then obviously a big emphasis on getting good data, accurate data, and it being time efficient. So that's what it should do. Whether it does it or not, I mean, proof will be in the pudding, as we know. But yeah, a good feeling with the call that we had about an hour ago now, probably less than that. But yeah, like I said, there's loads of options out there. It's just got to work for us and where we're at as a business, which is obviously in its infancy. So I mean, the decision will be down to you two, because obviously you pay the bills, not me. So yeah, but no, a good feeling, and yeah, we'll see what else is out there for sure.
Cool, Brendan.
Yeah, it's a great point you make there. I've got a couple of elements that kind of helped me towards my decision as well. One, I've sat through a hell of a lot of product demos, mainly SEO kind of tools, but I've sat through them, and half the time the product's all singing, all dancing, and it's hard to actually understand what it does and why you would need it. There, ZoomInfo, literally it was 5-10 minutes. I saw what it could do, and I was like, yeah, instantly I knew that could save us time and make us more efficient. So on that point, big tick for me as well. And the other point, and it was kind of more a personal reflection, I suppose, it was nice to be sold to rather than trying to sell to other people. In terms of, it came up with that thing like the same old questions, like looking at the costs and like the eyes go big and you're like, oh, that's a lot of money. But actually it comes back to the equation and the concept that we're always telling others, be it clients or team members, or, you know, when we try to get buy-in from previous agencies as well, it's not about the cost, it's about the value. If that helps us 10x our revenue quicker and more efficiently than any other means, it's worth it. And we'll be able to pay that because we will have all those clients. I think that's the only kind of risk element for me, is obviously it's a lot of money and we need to get something out of it, A, to pay for that, but also to make money ourselves. So, but from what they've said, what I've been shown, like doing all the analysis and calculating for experience of other tools in the past, yeah, I was basically instantly sold, and I was like, yeah, that definitely is a good platform and one that I would like to try.
Yep, I'm in agreement. I think it comes down to that point that we've all said, which is if this is going to allow us to close more business quicker, that's beneficial for all of us. And it is just going to be that cost equation, I think, is going to be the deal maker or the deal breaker on this. So for transparency, which is what we want this podcast to be, we have a follow-up call with ZoomInfo again tomorrow, where they're going to present essentially maybe one or two options. There are two things that we kind of need them to flex on. So one of them is price. Like, we do need them to come down on price from, I guess, their initial offer on the table. And the second thing is their billing cycles. So their standard billing cycles are, my understanding, biannually, so every 6 months. Obviously, for a company who's in its second month of trading, that's not ideal. I think an ideal structure would be monthly, but I think it's very unlikely that we get that. But if we could go to quarterly billing for the first year or something like that, it's definitely going to make things a little bit more tangible and realistic for us. So we'll see where we go. We do also have that call on Friday with the lead generation agency. I think it's likely we'll pull the trigger on one of those two things just to really fast track efforts and to get us to where we want to be as quickly as possible. But yeah, to your point, Brendan, obviously building, that's the section of the podcast where we talk about probably the most important thing that we've been working on in that week. And I'd say for us this week, getting that sales tech stack as smooth and as seamless as possible has been that thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just wanted to, maybe I'm wrong, but so we'll call this an opinion piece as well. But people might be listening to this podcast and like, these guys have just employed someone to help them with their sales, and now they're going out and spending more money on sales software and stuff like that. Why? What's the point? It's essentially that. It's to basically create the environment for success, both for Josh, but for 1225, so we can grow as quickly as possible, because we have got some ambitious targets, fully achievable for sure, but it's weighing up all of that time, that efficiency. Do you want all of us spending hours a week, like pulling contacts from LinkedIn and the like? No, you don't. You want an efficient, automated process that A, makes us look professional, but B, delivers results. So yeah, all for it.
Cool. Nice. What's next?
What's next is the organic search section. And yesterday, Google announced a new core algorithm update. This is something I've talked about a lot in the past. So I'm going to hand over to you, Harry, to speak about it.
Yeah, sure. So I think this might be the first time ever we've got like 25 minutes into the podcast and haven't mentioned the recording date. So recording date is the 23rd of August, 2023. And yesterday, so the 22nd of August, Google announced that they were releasing their August core update. And as you said, Brennan, like, we've been in this industry a long time. We spend a lot, or have historically spent a lot of time talking about algorithm updates. And at this stage, it's too early to talk about the implications or really what the algorithm update is for and what it does, et cetera, et cetera. Like, that information starts to become much more available as the kind of rollout of the algorithm happens. That tends to take somewhere between, say, 2 and 4 weeks. The reason that we wanted to speak about on the podcast today was, again, Brennan, you actually used the phrase earlier, like, of an opinion piece. And my opinion on algorithm updates, especially as we move forward, maybe not so much in the day, of course, like when the Penguin update became a thing, that was a huge change for how the SEO industry had been working prior to that. But as we move forward and these algorithm updates are becoming much more iterative. I don't think we need to panic. And I think actually, if we're panicking about those algorithm updates or thinking about working towards those algorithm updates, I think what that's actually doing is that's prioritizing short-term thinking. And something that we spoke about in the podcast a lot, and something that we try and instill in all of our clients, is that optimization and forward thinking on the long term, right? When we say long term, we're talking way beyond a year. Like, where do you want to be in 2 years, 3 years, 5 years? And if you're doing all of the right things, which is something that, again, we've essentially built the foundations of 1225 on, which is relentlessly focusing on the customer experience. If you're relentlessly focusing on the customer experience, understanding the kind of questions they're asking, providing helpful content, providing useful content, providing content at every stage of that buyer's journey through different means, right? Through blog posts, through video, through influencers, if that's the direction you want to go, or through paid media, if that's the direction you want to go. And you have a very solid technical foundation. And when I say solid technical foundation, like, I don't want to get into the world of like PHP or JavaScript or anything like that. I think the way that I like to think about technical is the structure of your site sound, right? Like, if you're a first-time user, could they come to the site and find the information they need to find? And if the answer to that question is yes, plus all the other stuff that I mentioned, you probably don't need to worry about algorithm updates too much. Yes, you might see a little bit of a drop, or you might see a little bit of an increase, but over that like 2, 3, 5 year stretch, it'll probably level out as a net positive if you're doing all the right things. So the way that I'd probably think about it now is much more like probably how you think about investing, right? When you invest, you expect there to be lows and you expect there to be highs, but you also expect that over a period of 10, 20, 30, 40 years, if you're optimizing and investing in the right shares, you'll see a net return. And that's probably what's happening here, and how I like to think about things as well. So, bit of an opinion piece, but I think worthwhile saying that yes, it's important to look out for algorithm updates, to understand them and to understand what impact it's had on your site. But you probably shouldn't optimize for them, because if you optimize for them, you're probably going to just continually be in that flywheel of optimization rather than that, I guess, linear, longer term thinking.
Yeah, well said. Totally agree. It's all we can do in this situation when we're doing the right things at the right time. Just monitor, obviously keep clients informed as and when these algorithm updates happen, and try and understand it as much as possible. But yeah, totally agree with that bit. So I think that is a nice warm up to the next section, my favourite as ever on the podcast, and that's a topic to the table. And this week, Mr. Evans, you were talking about client relationships and management. Yeah,
so before I do that, what I will say is for next week's recording, one of you two definitely has to bring a topic to the table. So I've done my turn, and then we can just go around in cycles.
Yeah, fair.
But yeah, so as you said, client relationships and management. And this actually comes down to a phrase that we've been saying and probably overusing on this podcast with our clients internally. We've probably said it to Josh a million times already, and he's only on his third day. But ultimately, I think we overcomplicate client relationships and just like project management and people management throughout the process. And we kind of forget that like our clients are people, and like to that point of view, like their agencies are people as well. And we start following processes that don't necessarily allow for the fact that we're all just people and we all have objectives and goals and things like that we're trying to work towards. And we've probably gone too far in terms of, as I don't really mean as an industry, probably more as a society, in terms of like how we manage things. Like, we've taken the people element out of it, and we need to bring it back in. So Brennan, you said this already, that you were with Ashbury for the whole day yesterday. Why was that so important? Because it was so much time with the people of the company, understanding how they think, understanding what they do, and understanding how they work and how they want to receive things. And you're doing that really well actually at the moment. In terms of when we onboard new clients, you start to ask them questions around like, how do they like to communicate? Would they prefer emails? Would they prefer calls? Like, a face-to-face meeting's better and things like that. And we've actually found it ourselves that those clients that we're trying to close via calls like this, so Zoom or something like that, like our close percentage on those is way lower than our close percentage when we're doing those kind of conversations in person. So I think that means that we need to start prioritizing human connection and human interaction much more. So like, obviously, Josh, what that means for your role, or what I think it means, is that you'll probably spend a lot of time going to potential clients, right, and meeting them and building those relationships and like understanding if we want to work with them and if they want to work with us. And I think you qualify that much quicker in person. I think when that comes to our actual clients that we have now, and that when we onboard them, FaceTime is critical. And if we're not investing in that FaceTime in the short term, I would imagine we'd see a negative correlation when it comes to client retention and things like that. So I can keep this one pretty short, which is just people buy from people, but also people work with people. And we just need to remember that as we go. And if we can keep a huge, or to the phrase that we use all the time, a relentless focus on the people, like our retention will be higher, our win rates will be higher, the work that we deliver will be to a higher standard and probably more seamless and probably a bit quicker in terms of implementation too. So yeah, client relationships, basically just people work with people, and we need to make sure we remember that.
Yeah, again, well said. And I think it goes both ways as well. People work with people. Josh is on this podcast with us today. Like, Josh wanted to join our journey. To others, it might seem kind of, oh, it's a startup, I'll wait a bit. But Josh jumped at the chance to join us. And likewise, Josh got the job because we liked him as a person and we could see ourselves working with Josh in the office. And that makes a whole difference. Like, you work with people, so you need to make sure you get on with those people and can work with those people as well.
I make good coffee, that's why.
It is that human connection, and I think that's important. And especially for your role moving forward, Josh, I think your communication's top notch. You can obviously converse well with people. So yeah, that's most of what your job's going to be, talking to people.
Yeah, well, I think COVID stopped that sort of, normal interaction. People try and sort of strive for that one size fits all model and doing things not lazily, because that's probably not fair on society. In fact, no, lazy. Right, we'll call it what it is. Yeah. So, like, even if it's going out for a client lunch, which I'm more on board to do. I mean, I do like a good lunch. So if it's that, and one of your competitors aren't doing that, how does that make your client feel? Do they want to work with you again? Do you have a good connection with them? If that's yes and yes, the retention of you working with again is going to skyrocket. So it's all basic stuff. It's not rocket science. It doesn't have to be rocket science, but it's teaching each person, not even each company, each person that you deal with, in the same way, but learning what makes them tick, basically.
Absolutely. Well said. Brilliant. With that, we will move nicely on to weekly commitments. So for myself, over the next week or so, client delivery, a large focus on that. Spent a lot of time setting bits and pieces up. So client delivery is the number one priority. I've got 2 blog posts that are being written at the moment. One of them's ready to go. We've got that all worked out on our website. So we've got the pages designed, all ready to go. We just need to obviously put them live over the next week. And the 102 tips update on that, we've now got all the contributions to that. So I'll add that to the second blog post and just top and tail that. And the final element that I commit to, it's been a while since I've had to submit a timesheet, but now that Josh is in the business, we're full go on harvest timesheeting. And I was trying to get Harry the other day on a phone call. Oh, maybe we should sort some sort of incentive out, like, I don't know, whoever doesn't fill in their timesheets goes and gets a McDonald's for us on a Friday. Harry said no, because it's just an absolute requirement. And actually, I sat back and realised, yeah, I agree, it's a requirement. So,
well, hang on. That's not actually true. What you realised was that Josh and I had been recording our time and you hadn't, and realised you'd have been the one that had to get the McDonald's, so backed out of it pretty quickly.
Yeah, it's just an absolute requirement. So I'll just make sure I do my timesheets. I don't want to part with money. So yeah, those are my commitments this week. Moving forward, Josh, what have you got on your plate?
Pretty plain and simple for me. A lot more training. Again, going through all those different modules, which will be a lot of fun. A lot of exams, which I'm actually buzzing to do. Like, I might even do one tonight just for the laugh of it. But yeah, a lot more training. Get my teeth into that. And then a lot of focus on sort of outreach principles and strategy there. But yeah, pretty. I'm back into the office tomorrow as well. So yeah, all good.
Perfect. And Mr. Evans?
So obviously we're recording on a slightly different day today. We're recording on a Wednesday. So the things that I had planned for my last weekly commitments probably remain the same, which is in the office tomorrow as well, but in the office for a bit of a better background as I start recording my first round of TikTok videos, which I'm sure is going to be no end of fun trying to record in front of 2 people watching me as well. So can't say I'm looking forward to it, but I think that the end output is going to be worth it. So yeah, that's still going to be my thing, which is recording those TikTok videos.
Very good. I'm gonna pull you up on something as well. Last week you made not a song and dance about it, but you made a big thing of a secret marketing activity. How are you getting on with that secret?
It's still in the works is probably how to describe it. So in this secret world, you have to submit a form to gain access to the thing that I need access to. I have submitted the form but not heard back. So that is a good reminder. I'll chase them up and see what's going on there.
Fair. So you've been blocked by the secret.
Exactly. Yeah. I don't know what the secret is yet.
Fair. Okay. I look forward to that. Maybe we'll just have a segment called Secrets right at the end of the podcast each week to see how we get on. So yeah, all in all, a very busy week. And unless there's anything else from you, Harry?
No, but I'm wondering if we should change the outro for this one in honor of Josh.
Oh, absolutely. I was going to suggest just that. Josh, you did such a good job with the intro before my internet cut out that I'm going to give you free rein to close out the podcast in whichever way you feel.
Okay, cool. Right. Thank you, everyone, for joining us on Building. Really enjoyed it, and we'll see you again next week. Take care. Bye.
To help us build our audience, please like, share, and subscribe. If you listened on Apple or Spotify, please leave us a 5-star review. And if you watched us on YouTube, please leave a question or comment and we'll get back to you. Thank you.